Hi guys, and welcome to another Is It Worth It? And this time we are looking at the 105 leFH18B2. That's a mouthful, but I think I'm just going to call it the FH18. This is a Tier 5 French premium tank, and it is no longer available. It was available in the tech tree for quite some time, but it was removed and is now currently only available as a prize or giveaway. It has not reappeared in the store since it was removed from the game, but no doubt it will probably make an appearance sometime in the future. Before the major RT nerfs, I believe it was 8.2, this was a Tier 4 RT. The only major thing that happened to this during the RT nerfs was it was moved up to Tier 5. But it still sees the same tanks it saw when it was a Tier 4, so that's not a big change. The history of the tank, well, a lot like the FCM Pack 40. This is not actually a French tank. Yes, I know in the game it is French and it's in the French RT tree, but it is not a French tank. This is a captured French tank. It's actually a German tank. It's a German field howitzer. And you'll know it is a captured German field howitzer because, well, it's got the B1 chassis. So, this is a captured B1, and there were 16 captured B1s sent to the Rheinmetall Borsig factory to be converted into RT pieces. And the tank gets its name from the gun. This is the leFH18. The howitzer, it was actually a field piece for the German infantry. So they added the field howitzer onto the chassis of a B1, and we ended up with the 105 leFH18B2. So 16 were shipped to the Rheinmetall factory, and 16 were shipped out converted like this to the infantry units. So this did see action, but it saw action on the German side, not the French. Now, why am I reviewing this tank right now? When I started at Tier 2, the plan was to go from all the Tier 2 all the way up to Tier 8, but I got sent a replay, and I decided to kill two birds with one stone. And as you can see from my particular tank, I only have a 75% crew in the main. I switched out quite a few crew members into other French tanks when I started grinding up the French lines. For a long time this was my only French tank, and as a result my crew was okay. So I took those crew members, put them into other tanks, and retrained a crew for this. But I don't play it very often and my crew aren't very experienced, and as a result I really don't get the best out of this tank anymore. But as I said, I'm killing two birds with one stone because I was sent a replay. And I could have made a video, another Your Replays video, featuring that particular game, but I figured it was a good game and I might as well review this tank. This is going to be a pretty quick review. There's not a lot to say when it comes to RT. I would love to talk about and give you examples of its speed and its view range and all the other good things I talk about when I'm reviewing other tanks. But in RT, you're pretty stationary and a lot of those things don't matter, so I'm sure you wouldn't appreciate a quick clip of me driving into position. But what I will do is I will be showing you that game and showing you what this tank is capable of, and I will tell you some stories about when I was driving this tank with a 100% crew. So, how are we going to compare this? Well, there are only two premium RTs in the game, the Tier 3 Sexton for the British and this. So it is pretty difficult to compare it against another premium tank, but what we will do is we will compare the FH18 against the equivalent Tier 5 French RT. Now, this is going to be the stock version, because I have not gotten to this French RT yet. I am only on the Tier 4 French RT, but we are going to compare these two tanks because they are both Tier 5 French RT pieces. And as you can see, the leFH18 has more hit points. In fact, it's got amongst the most hit points of any Tier 5 arty. It's quite heavy. It comes out at almost 33 tons compared to 16.2 for the AMX 13105. But it's got more engine power. However, that does not affect its speed limit. Remember, this is a B1 tank. In fact, you can see it here. In March 1941, the Rheinmetall Borsig Company ordered 16 captured B1 tanks to be converted into SPGs. So, there we go. It's a B1, so it has a B1 speed. It's got 28 kilometers an hour. This is not a French RT, and it doesn't have the speed of most French RT pieces. The traverse speed is incredibly poor at 22 compared to 27 on the AMX 13105. However, if we take a look at the hull armor, you'll see one of the benefits of this tank. It's got 60 hull armor on the front, on the sides, and 55 on the rear. And what this means, and again I would love to show you some examples of this, but I just don't have the replays available, and I would end up having to play this tank a lot to get those replays because it's situational. But what this means is this armor can bounce low tier scouts. I have been buzzed by PZ1Cs and they have not been able to pen me. So low tier scouts will bounce, they will have problems penning you. In fact, the weak spot of this tank, we'll just move this here, is the turret. The blast shield, or whatever you want to call it, that is the weak spot. The hull of this tank is a B1, so anything shooting at the hull is going to be meeting B1 armor. However, the turret is quite poorly armored, and if you're in a low tier scout, this is where you want to shoot it. But unfortunately, or fortunately if you're driving this, most low tier scouts are not aware of this. So the armor is pretty good. And that is one story I can share with you. I have bounced a lot of low tier scouts in this tank. And because this tank is quite heavy at almost 33 tons, the other thing that happens when you encounter scouts is they will attempt to ram you to death, assuming that they haven't penetrated and killed you. And because you've got this weight behind you, you quite often get ram kills in this arty. It's amusing when it happens. It's happened to me, but those replays are probably a year old and are long gone. And as I say, it's situational. I don't want to have to play 50 games in this tank just to have it happen once, just to show you. Take my word for it. Scouts will ram themselves to death on you when they find that they can't pen you. The shell damage and all that good stuff we will talk about in a moment when we look at the gun. The view range on this tank is exceptional. A lot of people do not know this about the leFH18, but it has 390 view range at tier 5. I mean, if you put binocs on this, you could almost use it as a tank destroyer. So you will quite often, while you're sitting in your bush and find yourself last man standing, you will quite often spot the enemy coming long before they spot you. If a scout breaks through the lines, you will see them long before they see you. And that will allow you to set up for a shotgun shot, and that's why I keep some premium rounds. I keep 4 heat rounds. This tank does use heat. I keep 4 in reserve for those occasions when I need to shotgun someone in the face, and it is quite successful. But again, it's situational, and I don't have any replays because I just don't have enough games played in this tank. The signal range is also very, very good at 525, so you could stay in contact with most of the battlefield, and that is important because the range of fire on this tank is very, very good. You can cover most of the battlefield from where you spawn, and that signal range really, really helps to keep those enemy tanks in spotting range. We're going to talk about the gun, and the best way to talk about the gun is to compare it again to the 2 guns on the tier 5 arty. So we have the leFH18, we've got the stock gun on the AMX 13105, and we have the final gun on the AMX. They are all 105 caliber, We have a rate of fire, and that is what makes this tank special. We have a rate of fire of 645, so you're firing a shot roughly every 10 seconds. For arty, and especially tier 5 arty, that is phenomenal. The rate of fire on the stock and on the final gun isn't as good on the other tier 5 arty. The penetration is 53 with 410 average damage, identical to the 105 on the AMX 13105. The dispersion is the same, the aim time is just slightly less, almost unnoticeable. The final gun on the AMX has slightly more pen, slightly more alpha damage, is slightly more accurate, and has a slightly better aiming time, but it's not bad. I mean, all three guns perform almost identically. The major difference between the three guns is that rate of fire. But this gun is not without its downsides. Because it only has 53 millimeters of penetration, it means you will struggle to penetrate heavily armored tanks. And what that means is that you have to pick and choose your targets. You need to aim for the squishy targets first, try and go for the enemy tank destroyers, try to go for the enemy medium tanks and the enemy light tanks, and of course enemy arty if it's spotted. However, while you don't do a lot of damage to heavy tanks, you can annoy them. And one example from when I was playing this tank is we had a KV-3 crossing an open field, and even though I wasn't able to do much damage to him, I think that maybe every second or third shot was doing about 20 damage on a hit, I was able to keep him permanently tracked. My first shot tracked him, he used a repair kit. My second shot tracked him again, and then I pretty much kept him tracked there for probably about 40 or 50 seconds. Just shot after shot after shot, keeping him tracked, doing a little bit of damage each time. Because he was top tier, a lot of the tanks on our team were not able to pen him, but eventually he was took enough damage to die. But I kept him immobile for literally about 40 or 50 seconds, and after the game he sent me a private message, and it wasn't very polite, so that is why I remember that particular game. So enough talking, let's get on to the replay. So I mentioned killing two birds with one stone. This is another one of your replays. This is Dr. Lucian Sanchez, one of the regular viewers on my stream, and he was kind enough to send in this replay in his leFH18, and he is here on Arctic. He is platooned with a KV-1 and a Stug, and it is a 47%er. But this is quite a good arty map, and you'll have seen this from a previous your replays, where leFH sent me in a replay of an arty ace tanker on this map as well. So here we go. Now there are lots and lots of TDs on the enemy team, and that is good for Lucian. You can see that the tank is not the fastest. It has a slow acceleration and a very, very low top speed. He's going downhill and getting it up to 30 kilometers an hour. But he is already reloaded, or already loaded, hasn't fired yet. So you can see how quick the aim time is on this. And Lucian is pre-aiming. And he's just waiting for the first spots. So he decides not to go. He sees a better target than the scout, and he's got the side of a TD. So you can see how quickly this thing aims and how quickly he's able to refire. He has already done 750 damage to that SPG, or to that TD. And now he's going to start working on the T-43, another soft target. So again, only 81, because he was not able to penetrate the turret. And you can see the difference when you pick and choose your targets. You can do a lot of damage if you can pen them, but any armor on the enemy tank at all, and you're going to be doing very, very little damage. So Lucian's going for the PZ SFL. Unfortunately, I was going to say he aimed a little long, but the PZ decided to turn and he got him in the side. So another soft target is gone. Kill number 1, and he's over 1,000 damage. Another soft target, and again you can see the shell landed right beside the TD, but the splash damage is very, very small. So no splash damage even though the shell landed right beside that TD. But you can see how quickly Lucian's able to move around the map, acquire a target, and how quickly this thing aims. So 87 well armored, side of a T-43 not so well armored. Shot goes slightly to the right, but he's reloaded already, so he can just fire again. So there we go, non-penetration, 120 damage on the side of a T-43. And there we go, a pen on an Su-122-44, and he does 438 damage. So if you can pick and choose your targets, you can do a lot of damage in this little thing. So unfortunately, hits the gun mantlet and only does 38 damage, but again, he's just keeping this TD lit up. Now, I do have to stress, in order to perform in RT like this, you need a well-trained crew, which is something I don't have. But you can just see he's keeping this tank completely locked down. That one fell a little bit short, but shot after shot after shot. So I think it's safe to say that Lucian's team have won the right flank. Now, while it's not the most accurate of RT, it's not incredibly bad. It's okay. So up till now, we haven't had any heavy targets to aim at. But there are some heavier targets up north. So we'll see how this RT does against them. Unfortunately, there's no one left up there to spot for him other than one of his platoon mates in a Stug. So the enemy team are going to have to advance before Lucian can get shots on them. And again, it's still a 50-50 game. The enemy team's best 3 players are still alive. So we are just waiting for spots. Okay, finally. So Lucian goes for a quick snapshot, and his platoon mate kills the SFL before Lucian can get in again. But there we go. Low health Su-122-44 is dead. Nashorn's another squishy target. Aim time is pretty good. And there we go. Direct hit, 193 damage. Lucian's up to over 2,000 damage now. In an RT with almost no penetration. So Lucian has the rate of fire and he has the ammo capacity to blind shot where he thought the enemy tank might be, but last remaining enemy tank has been spotted. Unfortunately, Lucian doesn't have any shots on him. So Lucian decides he's going to relocate, and this is where the slow speed of this RT can hurt you. Lucian is relocating to try and get shots at the AMX, but he's just not fast enough. So he needs the AMX to poke. He's still trying to get into position. But there we go. AMX is dead. And that is a win. So there you have it. Lucian in his 105 leFH18B2. He finished with 30,000 credits and 2,754 XP. If we take a look at the final scores, he did 2,150 damage, which is pretty good for a tier 5 RT. 4 kills, 918 base XP. He fired 26 shots. You got to see the rate of fire on this RT. And with only 12 direct hits. But the rate of fire means that you can afford to miss a target and immediately reacquire the target and get a hit on the second or even third attempt. He managed to do 4 splash damage shots, and again the splash radius on this gun isn't great, but as I say, the rate of fire makes up for it. So of the 12 hits, he got 12 penetrations. He was picking his targets. Good amount of damage. He damaged 6, destroyed 4. He didn't travel very far, but there's not a lot to talk about when you're talking about RT. He earned 27,213 credits. Now, Lucian isn't playing with a premium account. If he'd been playing with a premium account, he would have made almost 42,500 credits. In the end, because he wasn't playing with a premium account, he earned 2,754, but he could have earned 4,131. So this is a decent money maker. It's not going to make you a fortune, but it can make money. And it's a pretty good machine. So to sum up, this rate of fire is incredible. The splash damage isn't great. The penetration isn't great, and even the damage isn't great. But if you pick and choose your targets, you can have really, really good games in this tank. Let's talk about equipment. Well, for equipment, I've gone for the gun laying drive to give me that 10% aiming speed, even though the aiming speed on this tank is quite good. I've given myself 10% to loading time with, or minus 10% to loading time with the artillery shell rammer. And I've added a camo net because I'm RT and I like to hide in bushes. That's pretty much all I've done. However, as mentioned, you can outfit this thing with binoculars if you want to, but I don't know. I just don't think using this as a tank destroyer would be as successful as perhaps using it as a RT. The crew is pretty good. We've got a nice crew layout. We have the commander, a gunner, a driver, and a loader, and that makes it a pretty good crew trainer. You can train up most of your crew in this tank, and because it's a tier 5, you can do damage and you can earn credits, and you can earn quite a bit of XP, so it is worth actually training up or giving your crews second games in this tank. I'm starting to play a little bit more RT, but I don't play a lot of it. I'm starting to play a little bit more because I found myself grinding 2 RT lines I did not expect myself to be grinding. But I'm a completionist and I'm going to have to do it sometime. And now that I'm grinding up the French RT lines again, I will be playing more games in this tank. It's a shame it's no longer available, but do keep an eye out for it. Especially if you are interested in going up the French RT lines and don't already have this tank, because we have very, very good armor. We have a very, very fast rate of fire. We have very, very good view range. It's a heavy tank. You can ram enemy scouts to death, or rather they ram themselves to death on you. It's a good crew trainer. And there are some downsides. It's slow, so it takes a while to get into position. It has very, very poor splash radius, so you don't do a lot of splash damage in this tank. Against heavily armored tanks, you won't be doing much damage, but you can annoy them and you can keep them tracked. So, is it worth it? Well, if it comes up in the store again, yeah, I would say it's worth it, especially if you're interested in picking up an arty trainer. So once again, thank you to Dr. Lucian Sanchez for sending me that replay. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.